Hello, and this is a book review, interesting ideas and findings, takeaways that I found in this book, Social, Why Our Brain Are Wired to Connect. Let's see. First one is, the default network is activated when we are done with the task. In such times, we contemplate on social and self-relationship. At the default network, whenever we bored or we're done with like a major task we have, we will default into think about social and self-relationships. In time of rest, the default network is being activated by reflex, even for a few seconds. Same idea, just a little continuation. So in times of rest, the default network is being activated by the reflex. It's automatic, and even if you just a few seconds, you'll on and off. Switched on and off. Next, we are afraid of public speaking because of rejection. When speaking in front of other people, there is a higher possibility that all of them will reject you. That's what the problem with public speaking. If you get rejected, there is a higher possibility of getting rejected by a lot of people, which is never fun. But the idea is rejection. Rejection is usually more powerful than physical harm due to its evolutionary importance. Even if you got harmed by something, of course, if it's not like severe, you're more likely to get over it. But rejection could be detrimental, evolutionary, because it means that could stay longer, and rejection, therefore, is more powerful. Next, the head of an infant is the most problematic during birth. If it had been bigger, it couldn't be delivered, which leads to a longer period of adaptation that takes many years. That's why there is like this problem of, in one hand, you want the baby to be adapt right away to the world. On the other hand, there is not enough space during birth. It's too narrow. So usually it's been delivered too early, and then it takes a lot of time for the baby or an infant to be adapted to the world. Take many years, unlike most animals. Next, attachment a newborn has to his mother is not because of food, they just need support. They start cry when they are not in proximity to a caregiver. The attachment, this is what he claims, I think it's controversial, but the attachment a newborn has to his mother is because he needs that proximity. He needs support, not because of food. And the support he has, the evidence, is that when the caregiver is not around, they start crying because they need that support. Again, I think it's controversial. There is, I think some studies shows that it's all about food, which the evidence could show that they don't have the source of food. So I think it's like, but whatever. At times, even when you know there is an illusion, you're unable to see anything else. Sometimes even when I know it's an illusion, but I can't help it. In other words, I will always see it in that way. Fairness tastes like chocolate, means that when we treat it fairly, it actually feels good. It actually feels good to be treated fairly, and he have an analogy to chocolate. It actually feels good. When car salesman gives us coffee, we feel in debt, so we're more likely to purchase a car. That's one of their tactics to use. They give you something, and now you feel in debt, which is like great because he just gave you coffee, which doesn't cost them anything, let's say even for the company, a few cents, and you're in debt for him for thousands of dollars. Very, very clever. The Dalai Lama said, the right way to be selfish is to help others because that feels good. So that's the right way, being selfish, because you want to feel good about yourself, and that's the best way of being selfish, just to help others, because that feels good. I like it. Our altruistic behavior is an is as natural as being selfish. They're coming from the same idea, because being altruistic also help yourself, and it's come from the same. It's as natural. So both of them are natural, because you help others, you help yourself. It's like some kind of like a what is it? I forget the term. Altruism. Anyway. Next, when we see abstract shape, we ascribe meaning to it, which shows that we are built for intentional behavior from other physical object, people. When we see just random shapes, we usually ascribe meaning to it, which means that we are programmed to look for meaning. We programmed to see or to feel like a theory of mind from people, and I'll expand a little more about that, I think, in the next few notes. We are constantly looking for information to share with other people in order to enhance social connections. We're looking for those social connections, so we look for information that will strengthen those connections or maybe make new ones. Next, Henry Ford said, if I ask people what they want, they would tell me a faster horse. People don't know what they want. I really like this one. People don't know what they want, and before he made those cars, I think they asked him why you're not listening to everything people are saying. Or maybe why you're not asking. Say, if you ask, people just want a faster horse. They don't know what they want until you give this to them. I find very interesting. Next, the theory of mind means that we assume that other person has a mind and thoughts. That's connecting with the idea before. So we expect and we look for meaning, because we know that other person has a theory of mind, and he has minds and thoughts, and we are expecting this and trying to predict. The intense social services mean that people who are autistic get overwhelmed by social input rather than being insensitive. Usually it was prevalent that people who are autistic are just insensitive to the surrounding. But what he claims is that that's the intense social theory, mean that they just get overwhelmed. They get too much sensory information rather than just being insensitive. Even when we know that the mind and body are not separate, we cannot disassociate one from another. It's both from when we think about ourselves and we think about other people. It kind of works separately, but we cannot disassociate one from another. A Chinese man once defined the brain and the mind as a source for truth. That's what he claims, that the mind and the brain, especially for ourselves, that's the source of truth. When we look in, we know the truth, which not necessarily we spit out, but we know the truth. Nietzsche believed that the brain and self is a tool for the group around us rather than ourself. That's what Nietzsche believed. The brain and us, basically, is a tool for the group. We are part of the group, and that's help the group rather than for ourselves. We are part of the group, the altruistic idea. Self-control is like a muscle. When you use it more, it depletes, but it gets stronger. So self-control, when you use it too much, it's like a muscle. You use it too much, you get weakened, but you also strengthen the muscle in the long term. Suppression is experiencing emotion but not showing that outside. That's the definition of suppression. When you experience the emotion but you're not showing this. We have reappraisal versus suppression. Reappraisal help to cope with stressors, while suppression signal cool even though you are not. That's reappraisal. Just you need to like reassess the situation rather than showing that everything is cool. And that's suppression. Affect labeling mean if you see a spider, you need to label why are you afraid of it. That's effective labeling. You need to know why you're afraid of it, and that's supposed to help you coping with it. Self-control is a little weird because who exactly we are controlling here? It's emotions versus control over them. Again, it's a little weird because, yeah, exactly. Who are we controlling here? We have like two sides, and what he says is it's emotions versus self-control, or versus control over those emotions. That's the self-control problem. Self-control is benefit for society more than for oneself. We get paid for doing jobs that require self-control. Self-control is usually very good for the society more than the oneself. Oneself can do things that are going against the self-control, but for society it's more important that everyone will be self-controlled. And he also gives that we get paid for doing jobs that require self-control. Jobs that pays more usually requires higher self-control. And the same idea here, going to school is a competition of self-control, who have more self-control. So basically, and I like this idea, school, what it is self-control competition. Who has more self-control? Who is willing to write an essay rather than going out with friends, etc., etc. According to one theory, self-consciousness is a dialogue between self-impulses and what others are expecting from us. So there is a theory, self-consciousness is a dialogue. You have the self-impulses and what others are expecting from us, and that's the kind of the dialogue. Could be also the self-control idea. And we constantly have this dialogue going on between the self-impulses and what others are expecting from us not to do it. So it's like a whole, should I do it, should not, oh, but what I said, and blah, blah, blah. After moving from elementary school to high school, teenagers report low feeling rates. Mean they don't feel belong due to the model of the high school. So elementary school, usually it's with the same friends, same class. But after they move to high school, they report they don't feel belong because it's like same as college, different courses, different students, different teachers. The purpose of pain is to draw attention to that particular region. I find it really interesting. I thought about it before. I heard about it before. So pain, the use of pain is to draw attention to that region. There is also social pain. I don't really exactly remember what he's referring to that, but pain in general makes us pay attention to wherever the pain is coming from in order to you to change and do something about it. Telling kids not to social in class, it's like telling people not to eat. This is what they are trying to learn. They're trying to learn how to be social, and that's their best year for doing that. And when you tell them not to social, that's like telling people not to eat. And I really think it's important. When learning classes, we shouldn't focus about how. We should focus on why. That include history and English. Right now in school, we focus about how. So how things and how. A lot of hows instead of why. We should ask why specific grammar rules is working, or why history is working that way, not how, not just remember facts and all of that. Interesting. Next, social brain is programmed to understand other brains. Same idea, he's repeating it. It's the social brain hypothesis. and theory of mind. We're expecting other brains to be we're expecting social or brains from other people. That's what we expect, and we know and programmed to look for it. That's the idea, and that's the end of the notes. In general, I really like this book. 4 to 5 stars I probably will give this. It has some interesting ideas, definitely some interesting ideas. Some more, some less. I think 4 would be, because it's not 5, it's not perfect. But and the end of the book is more like, oh, what you do about the future. I don't really like those books that really like, it has good ideas about what we should do, but it was a little too long. There is some parts that could be shortened. I think 4 star is the right way to go with. And that's it. Thank you.